Imagine a sword being forged. In the heart of the furnace, the steel glows with a desperate, hungry orange. This is Netsu, the heat, the passion, the all-consuming fire of effort and desire. It is the artist lost in the flow of creation, the athlete pushing through the final mile, the lover pouring their entire soul into the moment. But left alone in that fire, the steel would simply melt into a useless puddle. Its true strength, its lethal edge, its unbreakable spirit, is only revealed when it is plunged, hissing, into the icy water. This is Rei, the cold, the clarity, the detached and silent observation. It is the stillness in the storm, the quiet eye of the hurricane. Most of us live our entire lives ruled by one or the other, swinging between burning obsession and cold withdrawal, never understanding why our efforts collapse or our spirits grow numb. But the ancient samurai understood a deeper truth. Mastery in battle and in life is not found in fire or frost alone. It is found in the impossible, simultaneous cultivation of both. This is the path of Netsu and Rei, the fire and the frost. It is a duality carved into the soul of Japan's warrior philosophers, and perhaps its most profound expression lived within the legendary Ronin Miyamoto Musashi. In his final work, the Dokudo, he writes, "Do not let your mind be swayed by your body, nor your body be swayed by your mind." This is not a call for indecision, but a command for dual awareness. The body must be capable of Netsu, ferocious, committed, explosive action. But the mind must cultivate Rei, a part of it always held back, watching, judging, untouched by the frenzy of its own motion. Musashi did not merely fight with skill, he fought with a chilling observation, studying his opponent's spirit even as he sought to take their life. He was both the furnace and the quenching water, and in that tension, his blade found its perfect edge. To understand this split in ourselves, let us follow a modern story. Consider a man named Kenji. Kenji is a master craftsman, a restorer of ancient katanas. His entire identity is Netsu. For him, the work is a sacred fire. He will labor for 18 hours straight, his entire being focused on the curve of a single blade, the texture of the steel. He feels every imperfection as a personal failure, every setback as a catastrophe. His passion is magnificent, but it is also a prison. When a client questions his judgment on a centuries-old tempering line, Kenji's world ignites. He argues, he fumes. He spends sleepless nights obsessing over the slight. His fiery commitment, which gives his work its soul, has also consumed his peace. He is the steel left too long in the forge, becoming brittle, on the verge of shattering. This is the tyranny of unbalanced Netsu. We see it everywhere, in the burnout of the passionate entrepreneur, in the rage of the idealistic activist, in the heartbreak of the all-in lover. The fire gives light and warmth, but without a container, it only destroys. The samurai knew that passion without detachment is merely chaos. Yamamoto Tsunetomo in the Hagakure warns, even if a samurai's head were to be suddenly cut off, he should still be able to perform one more action with certainty. This grotesque image is not about brutality, but about the ultimate expression of Rei, a mind so disciplined, so separate from the fate of the body, that it can execute a final, perfect action even in death. The fire of the spirit must be met with the frost of an untouchable will. Now, let us witness the opposite prison. Consider Kenji's brother, Hiro. Hiro is a senior analyst at a vast financial institution. His world is Rei. He has cultivated a profound detachment, believing it to be the pinnacle of strength. He observes market patterns, human behaviors, and even his own family's dramas with the same cool, analytical gaze. He avoids conflict, sidesteps commitment, and prides himself on never being swept away by emotion. But his life has grown silent and colorless. Opportunities pass him by because he refuses to risk the heat of failure. Relationships remain shallow because he will not endure the vulnerability of true connection. He is the quenching water, sitting stagnant in the barrel, never used to temper anything of worth. His frost has preserved him, but it has also frozen him solid. This is the paralysis of unbalanced Rei. It is the cynic who critiques but never creates, the bystander who witnesses but never acts, the thinker forever trapped in analysis. The cold clarity of observation becomes a cage of inaction. Takuan Soho, the Zen master who advised swordsmen, wrote of the immovable mind, a mind that does not stop, but rather flows without attachment. He distinguished this from the stopped mind, a mind fixated on control and frozen in place. Hero's Rei is a stopped mind. It mistakes numbness for peace and isolation for wisdom. The frost must have a purpose, to shape and give strength to the fire, not to extinguish life entirely. The transformation begins not with an addition, but with a surrender. For Kenji, it came in the silence after a monumental failure. A blade he had worked on for months, a blade into which he had poured his very identity, cracked during the final polish. It was unsalvageable. His first response was pure Netsu, a storm of self-loathing and despair that lasted for days. But in the exhausted emptiness that followed, something else arose. For the first time, he looked at the fragments of the sword not as a part of himself that had broken, but simply as broken steel. This was the first whisper of Rei. He observed the grain of the metal at the fracture point, coolly diagnosing a flaw that had been hidden from his passionate eye. The fire of his grief began to temper, not by being put out, but by being held within a larger, quieter space. He began a new ritual. Each morning, before touching his tools, he would sit for 20 minutes in pure observation. He would watch the dust motes in the light from his window. He would feel the temperature of the air on his skin. He would listen to the distant city sounds without judgment. This was not meditation to empty his mind, but to cultivate the observer. He was building a room within himself where Rei resided. Then, and only then, would he approach the forge. And here, he did the opposite. He allowed the Netsu to rise fully, the love for the steel, the fury of the hammer, the artistic vision. But now, a part of him, the part that had watched the dust motes, also watched the passion. It would notice when his frustration began to cloud his technique, when his attachment to a perfect outcome made his hand tremble. That part would whisper, and he would listen, stepping back to quench the blade, both literally and metaphorically. For Hiro, the awakening came through a deliberate provocation of Netsu. He was presented with a pro bono project to help a failing local community center. His analytical mind immediately saw the futility, the poor financials, the entrenched problems. His Rei advised him to decline, but he heard his brother speak of the balance of fire and frost, and he made a terrifying decision. He would engage, but he would do so with a rule. He would allow himself to care, just for this one project. He would let the fire in. At first, it was agonizing. He met the people, heard their stories, and felt the slow, unfamiliar heat of investment. He worked late, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He argued with council members, his voice rising with a passion he didn't recognize. And through it all, his trained Rei was there, watching this new fervor with amazement. It was using its clarity not to avoid the fire, but to channel it effectively. His analysis now served his passion, not his detachment. The master does not choose between Netsu and Rei. The master learns to be the crucible that contains both. In the final years of his life, Musashi retreated to a cave to write and paint. This was the ultimate expression of Rei, the detached hermit, observing the world from a distance. Yet, what did he produce in that cold, quiet space? He painted birds with such vibrant, lifelike energy that they seemed to fly off the scroll. He wrote a treatise on strategy that burns with competitive insight. This was Netsu, pure and undiluted, flowing from a place of profound stillness. The fire was created by the frost. The frost was given meaning, be the fire. His mind was the unmoving moon reflected on the water's surface. Rei. His spirit was the water itself, constantly flowing and adapting, Netsu. So, where does one begin? You start with a single, non-negotiable action that trains the weaker side of your nature. If you are all Netsu, all fire and passion, your practice is the cultivation of Rei. It is 5 minutes of silent observation each morning. It is the conscious pause before responding in anger. It is asking yourself, in the heat of any intense moment, what is the part of me that is watching this happen? Do not try to quench the fire. Simply build the observatory next to the volcano. If you are all Rei, all frost and detachment, your practice is the deliberate cultivation of Netsu. It is choosing one small thing to care deeply about, without the guarantee of a return. It is allowing your voice to rise in a meeting when you believe in something. It is committing to a physical practice until you are breathless and spent. Let the fire burn in a designated hearth. Your cold clarity will ensure it does not consume your house. In the end, this is the warrior's greatest secret. It is not about suppressing your nature, but about completing it. The most compassionate person is not the one with the hottest heart, but the one whose warmth is directed by a clear mind. The most effective person is not the one with the coldest logic, but the one whose logic is propelled by a powerful why. You are both the sword in the forge and the master smith who quenches it. You are the battle cry and the silent strategy that precedes it. Hold the fire and the frost together, in the same breath, in the same heartbeat. Let your engagement be total. Let your passion be fierce, but in the very center of the flame, preserve a single, unmelting crystal of ice. That is where you will find your edge. That is where you will find your peace. What you have learned today is not merely a philosophy, but a practical discipline for living. You have learned that true strength lies not in passion or detachment alone, but in the conscious marriage of the two. You have learned to identify whether you are ruled by the uncontrolled fire of Netsu or the paralyzing frost of Rei. And you have been given the first, simple steps to begin building the crucible within yourself that can hold both. To act with the whole heart, while a part of the mind remains as still and clear as a mountain lake. Now, I pose a question to you, one to sit with in your own quiet moment of observation. Look at your own life, at your greatest struggle or your deepest passion. Are you currently in need of more fire or more frost? Where is the balance lacking? Share your reflection in the comments below. I read everyone, and there is great wisdom to be found in the shared experiences of this community. If this exploration of timeless wisdom resonated with you, if you felt the click of understanding for this balance of fire and frost, then consider subscribing to this channel. It is a space dedicated to these deep and disciplined principles, to turning ancient philosophy into a modern practice. Your presence here, your commitment to this path, is what allows this work to continue. Thank you truly for watching until the very end. Thank you for your time and for your willingness to look inward. Until next time, walk your path with both heat and clarity.